Apple just unveiled the new iPhone 16e and it's a very exciting new release. It's the cheapest iPhone available, so here are 20 interesting facts about the new iPhone 16e. First, it has an A18 chip, just as the iPhone 16, and it also supports Apple Intelligence. And this is the big selling point here, as Apple was behind on AI with previous models. Number two, the price is higher than expected, at $600, and it goes to $700 if you opt for the 256 gig model, or $900 if you go for the 512 gigabyte version. And that is plainly a disappointment. We were hoping for a $500 price, but that has not happened. This iPhone is indeed very powerful, but it's a bit more expensive than we hoped for. Number three, Apple has discontinued the iPhone 14. The new iPhone 16e replaces that model. Unfortunately, that also means you can no longer buy the iPhone 14 Plus, which was the cheapest larger iPhone available. Number four, the iPhone 16e has the longest battery life ever on a 6.1-inch iPhone, and this is probably the most exciting upgrade. It has 26 hours of video playback versus 22 hours on the iPhone 15, which is a nearly 20% improvement. And Apple also says that you can get 90 hours of audio playback versus 80 hours on the iPhone 15, which is a 12% improvement. So overall, this is a very nice upgrade. Next, yes, it really has just one camera on the back, but it's a very powerful 48 megapixel camera with sensor crop for better zoom quality, and you can capture 2x zoom portraits as well. And iPhones are known for capturing industry-leading video quality, so we don't expect that to be changing. So long story short, just one camera, but a very powerful one. Next up, it has an action button, but no camera control. This is a small change, but I actually prefer having just the action button. The camera control on the iPhone 16 can often get in the way, and I end up turning it off. Next, I just have to say, in my view, the iPhone 16e is a better deal than the iPhone 15, which doesn't support Apple Intelligence at all. It's just the way it is. The iPhone 15 costs $700, this one is cheaper and has a bit more features. But it doesn't have MagSafe, which is a big disappointment. Are you kidding me, Apple? You can only use a standard Qi wireless charger with slow 7.5 watt speeds. But disappointingly, there are no magnets, and that makes it far less convenient if you want to use it in a car. Just snap it to a charger. You have to use a case for that. You cannot just do it with the phone itself. And next up, it doesn't have the dynamic island, and it uses a notch instead. To me, that's not a huge loss, that's just a small detail, but something worth noticing. Another interesting detail is that the screen on the iPhone 16e is less bright. It can only go to 1200 nits versus 1600 nits on iPhone 15 and iPhone 16, so it will be a bit harder to use outdoors. Will it be a huge difference? Probably not, but just something small to keep in mind. Next, while it has an A18 chip, it is not quite the same as the one on the iPhone 16, and this is your typical Apple move at play. The iPhone 16 has a 5-core GPU, while the iPhone 16 has only 4 GPU cores, so it's a bit slower for gaming and for more power-intense tasks. And next up, this is the first iPhone with an Apple-made modem, which is called the Apple C1. Finally, it's happening. Apple is transitioning from Qualcomm modems to its own modems, and this is the most power-efficient modem ever on an iPhone, which is an excellent achievement from Apple, but it will be very interesting to see if Apple got this modem right and if there are no issues with signal reception, so we have to wait for the final review to learn more about that. Another interesting tidbit is that there is no 5G millimeter wave support in the US on the iPhone 16e, and this is a very interesting decision. It seems that that technology is no longer that crucial. And just a reminder, millimeter wave is the type of 5G technology that is super fast, but only works in very small areas. So it's nice to have if you're in a packed football stadium, but it makes very little difference elsewhere, so probably not a huge loss. Another interesting detail, the iPhone 16e most certainly has a larger battery size than before, so it's not just software improvements. As always, we have no official battery size numbers from Apple. Those numbers will arrive from third parties soon, but given the 3500-ish mAh size on the iPhone 16, we can assume that the iPhone 16e is likely to be somewhere around 3700 or 3900 mAh battery in terms of size. Next up, it has a redesigned inner structure. The inside structure has been tweaked to allow for this bigger battery, but this iPhone should also be easily repairable too. So far we don't know much detail about this new inner structure, but we'll keep you posted. Next up, there is no camera control, and that means no visual intelligence, right? Wrong! Apple has thought of an alternative way. You have to use the action button, probably long press it, and you will get to use visual intelligence, which is one of the key selling features of the iPhone 16. So it's again nice to see that the 16e also has these features. Alright, next up we only have two colors on the iPhone 16e, a matte white or matte black, which is a bit disappointing. If you want a colorful iPhone, you have to go for the 15 or the 16, and it becomes a bit more complicated. So only two color options. Another very curious detail is that the design on the iPhone 16e is very slightly different than most other modern iPhones. The 16e has a fully flat back, just like the iPhone 13, iPhone 14, while newer models have slightly tapered back with less sharp edges, so they're a bit more comfortable to hold, but it's a small thing. Number 19, no spatial photos support. Remember spatial photos? This is the feature where your photos kind of look 3D-esque and you can then later view them on the Apple Vision Pro. But does anyone really care? Does anyone really own an Apple Vision Pro? I think that's not very relevant. And finally, number 20, there is no macro photography on the iPhone 16e, since that uses the ultra-wide camera, which you don't have obviously on the iPhone 16e, so you don't get that feature. Overall, I think most of the compromises on the iPhone 16e are not that big. It feels like a phone that I would recommend if you're looking for a phone that is small, that has good battery life, an excellent camera, even if it's just a single one. But the big disappointment is the price. I was really hoping to see the iPhone 16e at $500. But unfortunately that's not the case. It's replacing the iPhone 14 once again, so that's no longer available. But let me know what you think. Are you gonna buy the iPhone 16e maybe for yourself or as a gift for someone? What do you think? Is Apple being a cheapskate by not including a secondary camera and by bumping the price to $600? Let me know what you think in the comments below.